Welcome back to Why Is That Funny? I've been looking forward to this since Dropout put it up for free on their YouTube channel a couple days ago. They've got two improvisers I've seen before. Jeremy Culhane, who is, I think, a master of like free association. Don't care what crazy thing I'm going to say, we'll figure it out later. And Vic Michaelis on the other end of the spectrum, who is so good at piling on details to make something that crazy that just happened make sense. Opposites attract. Let's get into it.
We all have a story to tell. And sometimes those stories need to be shared with the world. Good evening. I'm Vic Michaelis.
So this is like a talk show format.
Very important.
Vic Michaelis is the host every week, and then a different guest each week gets dressed up.
Remain calm, deep breath, and focus on making sure that we got those lighting cues tightened up. Okay. Oh, hi.
And doesn't see what they look like until the end, and then they have to create a character.
Please. Oh, and to you also. Oh, and so.
Now we are engaged for love.
What? What do you mean?
You did the love dance.
Oh, well then okay, so why don't we take a seat here for a minute? Okay,
Thank you.
So I don't know how that's
Sorry.
an hour.
Okay, lots to unpack there, but that's not surprising. So what we have here is long-form narrative improv. Those are different things that often go together. Long-form improv means that they're not going to be given the rules of the game that's going to make the scene funny, which is what you might see on like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they give you lines to read from your pocket or prop or whatever. That's what the long form means. They're figuring it out on their own. And narrative, in that over the next 20 minutes, they're going to evolve a story together. Now, it'll just be a very simple type of story. It'll just be like the evolution of their relationship as two people that know one another, from strangers to whatever it becomes. But because of that, they need fuel for that fire. They don't need to be thinking constantly, like staying on their toes, what's going to be the next funny thing to say. They need fast stuff that they can pick from. So they're going to make strong choices about their character from the very start. So let's go back and unpack. There was a ton in here that I bet is going to either be a direct reference later on or is going to inform how they say the next funny thing they say. Like what gets established?
Very important.
So one, you have Vic getting interrupted by lightning and losing control of the situation.
Calm, deep breath, and focus on making sure that we got those lighting cues tight.
You've got the music.
Okay. Oh, hi.
And in parallel, we've got the establishment of Jeremy's character as this kind of quirky, or is it flirty, sort of fun guy, despite how he looks. And Vic's character, a really smart line being established, establishing here that they're quite controlling, right? Because it flashes and they say, everybody remain calm, deep breath.
And focus on making sure that we got those lighting cues tightened up.
And then flips it by saying, and focus it on making sure we're getting those lighting cues tightened up. So they're looking after themselves there and taking it out on the crew. They're not actually being like loving, caring, or anything like that. So we have these two quite opposite types of character being established within a couple seconds.
Oh, hi. Hello, I'm so sorry I didn't know you were on set yet. Please take a seat and please. Oh, and to you also. Oh.
Yeah.
So.
I just love that. Okay. And notice until this point, so this started at 2 minutes 30 and it's now 2 minutes 57. Jeremy hasn't said anything. This is all non-verbally that he's setting up this stuff. He has established himself as flirty by the nature of how he looks, which he didn't get to choose. He just saw it a second before starting filming. He looks weird, like he's from a different time or a different place, or undead. He has established this strange custom, this like weird dance. And note how Vic has reinforced their own character as well. Vic could have just said, no, I'm an awkward person, so I'm not going to do the dance, which is what you would see a lot of improvisers do. Vic instead decided, I'm going to join in, follow the fun, we call it, with your fun thing that you're doing, but I'm going to do it my own way that show, like, look at this hand position that they end up in.
So.
Yeah, it's like someone that went to dance school and has deeply tried to repress that fact about themselves. Yeah, it reinforces that they're like awkward and maybe a bit standoffish, but still doing the fun thing.
Well, that's kind of fun.
And now we are engaged for love.
What? What do you mean?
You did the love dance.
Oh, well then wah, wah. Okay, so why don't we take a seat here for a minute?
And let's talk about yes and. We may as well. It's the most fundamental rule of improv. So yes and is how we make things real together. One person says something or does something, and the other person says, okay, I accept that you did that, and I'm going to add to it this detail. I saw actually a clip from Vic Michaelis recently talking about this kind of chat on the internet about no but, where people are arguing, no, you can shut down what somebody else said if you've got a funnier idea, and pointing to things like this, where Vic has rejected that proposal and calling it an example of no but.
Wah, wah. Okay, so why don't we
I think that's a rewind, right? But what that actually is still a yes and it's a brilliant yes and. They are saying, yes, I accept that your character has just proposed to me. That remains real. And I'm going to let you know my character is not interested in that. That's a verbal no if their character had said no. But it is a yes from the improviser, and it's beautiful.
here for a minute? Okay,
Thank you.
So I don't know how that's.
Sorry.
How we're doing that. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Boris Tashkokan.
Hello.
I'm from Le Fufu.
Okay, this is Boris. Got it. From Lafufu. Is that a Labubu? Is that a toy reference?
Treaty, and you are an ambassador here to sort of consecrate that
Okay,
friendship.
we're setting up the narrative.
Consecrate that friendship.
Why are you saying it like that?
Lightning.
No. Well, I can do that also. So ready?
Okay, so Vic has just thrown Jeremy a softball here. There's another thing that's good to point out. You see in comments on YouTube videos often people being like, taking this as an example, wasn't that a funny innuendo that Jeremy come up with? Vic came up with that. We do a lot often as improvisers to set up the other person with an easy move to make. Vic wanted to point out and like make a sort of conflict of why are you saying it like that? I think there was a little pause even before they said
Or an ambassador
consecrate.
here to sort of consecrate that
Yeah.
friendship.
Yeah.
So that's an intentional move.
Consecrate that friendship.
Why are you saying it like that?
Lightning.
And then playing it like, playing it dumb.
No. Well, I can do that also. So ready? Lightning.
So we have the lightning coming in as a pattern now.
Lightning. Sorry.
Jeremy can control the lightning.
So it's an accent thing, I think. Lightning.
What accent? I do not have one.
Well, I guess it's a frame of mind.
No, I
right?
have American accent.
Oh, you think you have an
I
American?
am John Wayne. I gotta shoot the gun.
What about that accent feels different than
Classic John Wayne.
I have trained my voice to sound immediately American. You want to hear my American accent one more time?
I would love to.
I am Iron Man. Oh, whoa, Tony Stark. We cannot do that.
I'm sorry. You're Iron Man saying Tony Stark.
Yeah, okay. So, okay. Right, so let's talk about game of the scene. I mentioned games a little bit when I was talking about the difference between long and short form. But whereas a short form game might be reading lines from your pocket, that's the game. That is the name of the game. When we are talking about game of the scene in long form improv like this, it's something that comes from the UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade School of Improv in the States. We study it here in some schools in the UK and elsewhere. They give us a framework basically for creating our own equivalents of short form games, like a sort of rule set and a hidden kind of communication language sort of between the two improvisers about how we're going to make this scene funny for the next few seconds or the next couple minutes. And so what that does is sets up a pattern, gives us language to like point out to one another what the pattern is going to be, and then play with it and make it bigger and more crazy. And what's happened here in that last scene is we have bounced from game to game to game. None of them were established as patterns for more than a couple seconds before it moved on.
Lightning.
So game one, lightning,
say it
can't
one more
control
time.
it.
Lightning.
So it's an accent.
At a few repetitions.
Lightning.
What?
Game two,
Do not have one.
accent.
It's sort of a frame of mind.
No, I
right?
have American accent.
Oh, you think you have an
I
American?
am John Wayne. I gotta shoot the gun.
So very simple thing. If this had become a game that they had kept playing, then maybe it could have tried different accents, or it could have got crazier and crazier how far off an American accent he was.
What about that accent feels different than what you were doing previously?
I have trained my voice to sound immediately American. You want to hear my American
Immediately
accent one more time?
American.
I would love to.
I am Iron Man. Oh, whoa, Tony Stark. We cannot do that.
I'm sorry. You're Iron Man saying Tony Stark, we can't.
And the reason I paused that there is I'm pretty certain that the game that actually gets played for a few repetitions is going to be this Iron Man thing. And the reason it's bounced from game to game to game is Vic has done this thing called framing, which is part of that hidden language, secret language that I was talking about a second ago. We'll get into framing in a little bit, but notice how much of a laugh has come from Vic saying...
I am Iron Man. Oh, whoa, Tony Stark. We cannot.
Vic saying what they say now.
You're Iron Man saying Tony Stark, we can't.
That has made it so obvious how crazy that situation is that it's going to be inevitable that that's what gets played with now, unless they move on to something totally different.
I don't know if in the FIFA there's a different comic. In the United
Yeah.
States, Iron Man
Okay.
and Tony
So
Stark.
they're
are the same.
doing the framing again, pointing it out again.
Lufufu, Iron Man, and Tony Stark are it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are also the same person.
No,
And that's the second move of that game.
And it's
I
just
don't
during
know.
the day.
I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll say potato.
Mr. Stark, you cannot do that. I am Iron Man.
The Board of Tourism.
Stupid. Okay. So let's explain what I actually mean by that hidden language. So when you're improvising, you're responding fast. You're going to say some stuff that comes to your mind and it's funny. And you're going to say some stuff that comes to your mind just by accident. And I think going by his look and his response after Vic framed it, Jeremy didn't intend to say something as dumb as Iron Man talking to Tony Stark. But once that thing is said, it's out there. The audience feels it, even if it kind of goes over their head a little bit. It builds up a bit of pressure, a little bit of intensity. And my Harold team here in London, one of our coaches, Luke Healy, describes comedy like the inflation of a balloon. And as you add in grounding, which is what Vic does a lot of, just adding normal details to make the world feel more comfortable and normal, it inflates a bit. And then as you add in something that is like a one-off unusual thing like that, it really strains the edges of the balloon. So it's all the way out here, right? And the audience can feel that, but it's not until as the improviser responding to it, generally this is how it works in improv and in sketch. It's that response that pops the balloon and lets that tension be released in the form of laughter for the audience. That's why the laugh was not when Jeremy said the weird thing, but when Vic repeated it. That's what framing is, and that is used as our trigger when we're improvising in this UCB style to then repeat that pattern again. So then we had Jeremy's second move be Jekyll and Hyde, and we had his third move.
No, it's different.
They're the same person. It's
I
just
don't
during
know.
the day.
It's Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay, well.
The third move.
We'll say potato.
Mr. Stark, you cannot do that. I am.
Okay, and that's just stupid. Okay, I mean valid. Come on. The third move was just surreal and an inversion of that pattern. So going from mistaking counterparts of the same thing as being different things to being set up with potato, which is the same thing. He then references totally different things. That's where you would end the scene if you were doing this on stage, because that's so unrealistic and bizarre that it would take insane determination as an improviser to get things back on the rails, they have the luxury of an edited show, so they can just move straight on and cut to the next clear bit.
Sent you. Why do you think they sent you specifically?
It's because I am bachelor.
So we're setting up the going back into the narrative part of the improv.
Country.
It's like in most countries,
Moving away from games of the scene.
become representatives for the country, like Miss USA, Miss Philippines,
And this grounding.
and it's sort of a similar situation here.
Yes, I would.
They're doing a lot of grounding. Vic especially is, again, like I said before, adding lots of details in to reground it, which also means that there's a larger shared reference base now. They know that they've both talked about pageants and things, so maybe that'll come up as a joke reference later. But what this does is starts reinflating that balloon again, because if you just go from crazy to crazy, it's not going to get a laugh. We've had a few seconds now of saying normal stuff, so we're ready for the next game.
Say similar situation. With a little twist, they want me to find love and bring them home to La Fufu.
So you're looking for a partner.
La fufu.
Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not dating right now, so I'm sort of playing it casual.
Oh, you're not dating?
I recently got divorced, and so
You
I'm
don't
sort of
even want to give it a try?
with who?
Lightning.
Okay, so
Now watch this.
Who are you pointing at?
Sexy lightning.
Okay.
It's
And
a
what's the
little
difference?
longer.
Do you think
It's a little longer. So, okay. So they went back to that's totally valid. If it's been long enough, and you're doing a long scene like this, you can go back to a previous game of the scene. So they went back to the lightning. But what really got the laugh there, I would say, is coincidental that is part of a pre-existing game. You want to talk about balloons popping? Sometimes the thing that inflates the balloon the most is a total accident, and I am going to go out on a limb and say that probably happened because the crew are improvising as well. I assume the lightning at the very start, because that's how he was introduced at the start of the scene, right, was planned. I don't know if the fact that he would then call on lightning again later was planned, but I'm guessing from that him asking for specific types, like queuing sexy lightning, I'm assuming that wasn't planned. So they had not, like, when he said that, they would have, I guess, gone, I don't know what that's going to mean, so we're just going to do it for longer. But you feel that watching it. I felt that watching it. I was like, this is uncomfortable. And frankly, on stage, some of the biggest laughs you'll get that night come from just pointing out the ridiculous thing that just happened. Now, let's be clear about this. Do it in character. You don't want to be hearing, which you do all the time, but you don't want to be hearing improvisers going, isn't it crazy how we both live in the city and neither of us know anything in it? There's such a fine line about how you use that as framing for a viable game versus like you're just creating these characters in this world and then smashing it down with a hammer again. But sometimes if you have other games that you can play and it doesn't matter that you're breaking that illusion for a minute, that gets the best reaction.
Nothing is sexier than a long lightning.
I would say long doesn't necessarily mean better. No. Cut that part. No.
And that's something that I would say again. Like if I'd noticed Vic serving up the softballs before, I would be giving in my coaching, lead into that. Like your character wants to say no, wants control, and wants to wrestle for that control. So create opportunities like another innuendo there for Jeremy to respond to. By the way, if you are looking for an improv coach, I can coach you here in person if you're in London, or online if you're literally anywhere else. You can get in contact with me, and my social media details are in the links below.
Okay, well, you're looking for love, you're looking to date. Even though I am not looking to date, so it definitely won't be me and I'm not interested.
You're
and
not
I can't.
interested in dating?
Well, I'll be interested
Next!
What?
Next! I have had so much fun on this date. You don't get your $17.
No, so
sorry.
that's not how this works. I think you're referencing the television program Next from the mid-2000s. Right now.
Yes,
You can't
okay.
call Next. If anything, I would call Next, and then a new guest would come in.
No, I don't like this. Next!
No, you can't call Next.
Well, I am not going to be happy to see your room.
What?
You've probably got a messy room, and I'm gonna be like, I cannot date this person. Their boxers are everywhere.
Huh?
That is the show Room Raiders.
So
That
it's a
I'm
different
talking
show
about.
completely.
I've seen them all.
Say you're on the television show Next, and they sort of have three facts.
Okay, so we're so we're into a new game, and Vic doesn't seem to realize it this time. And that's again, it's happened because Vic framed something. Vic understood the reference that Jeremy gave initially.
Next! I have had so much fun on this date.
He's calling next.
Get your $17.
Vic knows what it is,
Not
what that
I
is.
think you're referencing the television program Next from the mid-2000s right now.
Yes.
But I think what's happened there is that has come across as framing to Jeremy. So he's gone, okay, so our game is going to be 2000s dating shows, TV shows, whatever this is, and game shows. And Vic hasn't picked up on that pattern, or at the very least doesn't get the next reference. But I think you can see on their face when they get the reference, when they get that that's what the game is.
And then a new guest would come in.
No, I don't like this. Next!
No, you can't call Next.
Well, I am not going to be
So,
happy to
second game
see
move.
your room.
What?
You've probably got a messy room, and I'm gonna be like, I cannot date this person. Their boxers are everywhere.
Look at that. That's genuine. That's a look of sheer confusion on Vic's face. And don't worry, that happens often live on stage.
That is the show Room Raiders.
So
that
it's a
I'm
different
talking-
show completely.
different-
And that is a moment of realization, I think. Oh, okay, you're doing shows. That's what we're
I've seen
doing.
them all.
Say you're on the television show Next, and they sort of have three facts about themselves. What are your three facts?
Fact 1, I am a singer.
Well, let's hear a little bit.
Oh my
You can't sing that.
What a tune.
You can't sing that.
What?
I don't know if copyright works different in Love.
My hat.
That's okay. I got
Every day. Okay, I don't know why I did that, 'cause I don't know the words. I'm going to make a prediction based on something that just happened. Did you notice this moment?
Singer.
Well, let's hear a little bit.
Which what Vic does.
You can't sing that.
Look at that! You can't sing that. Here's my prediction. You want to talk about framing? Okay, you've got the option of saying, do you realize this crazy thing that you just said? You just said, Tony Stark, I am Iron Man. You've got the option of saying, what? And then really pointing out, like, just without many words, what you just said was crazy. But if you want to guarantee that an improviser is going to do something that you want them to do, you tell them, you cannot do that. Don't do that. And I am willing to place a money cash bet that we're going to get more singing.
You can't sing that here. You can't sing that.
What?
I don't know if copyright works different in Love.
My hat.
That's okay. I got it. And so
No, please.
Oh, I got it. Don't worry.
No, I got it. Oh.
Okay.
Oh God. Okay, you want to talk about things being at top of mind because you've set up your character choices? Jeremy's set himself up as horny flirty. So he's not having to think like, what's an opportunity for me to be horny flirty? Or he's not having to think like, oh, Vic is leaning towards me. Would it be funny if I do some kind of like noise like that? No, it's the obvious thing. You've already decided that for yourself 5 minutes ago when you started the scene. So that is why we make those strong character choices.
Okay, so we're gonna
Wow, you're
Great way of dealing with that.
very strong. I can do a push-up. I've actually been working on it, and I can do 3 push-ups where I go all the way to the ground and all the way back up.
You have to show me this talent of yours.
So
Follow
first
the
one
fun?
kind of look, I haven't done them in a little bit, I should
Okay.
say. So I don't know if this is still true. You don't need to wink at me.
That's
Yes, all
Okay,
right.
so here
panic.
we go. 1.
1. That felt very honest.
I'm just really
That did feel very honest. I think we're getting a lot of the real Vic coming out. We've had not knowing what TV shows are. We've had this moment. Oh my God, Vic! One push-up.
I'm in a little bit. And so, well, let's...
Next.
Okay. No, you can't say next. This is my show. Again.
Next.
How does it feel? Next.
Please do not say that to me.
Okay, you can't sing that. It means that we have to pay a lot of money in order to use it.
I called it.
No, we don't have the money to pay for that to use the
You
show.
have the money.
No, we don't have the money. Okay, quiet.
Bravo.
I will sing an
3 hits at that one game, back to back to back.
original for you.
Which, if you're those were 3 hits, 3 like very similar. You know, just how I was excited because I was right, but those were kind of the same game move. It was the heightening of that game where ideally every move it gets a bigger reaction. In that case, the heightening is inherent in the fact that he's been told no repeatedly. So every time he does it after being told not to, it's a bigger transgression. That is, in grand terms, a pretty small heightening. So I would be interested to see if this game carries on getting played, if we move into like a different song or something, or doing other things that he's not allowed to do because of copyright or budget, whatever. But I'd be interested to see if there's like a different
That would be fantastic.
different
If you're a singer, let's hear
band
an
songs.
original composition.
Okay, all right.
Let's hear another song.
I'm a cowboy on a stand.
What is
No.
it was that David
Okay, quiet, so quiet. We can't sing.
Bon Jovi?
You're a singer.
So I wrote that song.
John Bon Jovi.
Did not write that song.
So I wrote that song.
I think
Oh my god. I'm sweating. I was laughing over it, but what he just did there twice was another part of that hidden communication that we do. He's naming the game, so that or labeling the unusual things, so that there's no. It's kind of a bit like your own framing. They've already very much established this game as things that you're not allowed to sing, but he's calling it "I wrote this song."
I wrote
Fun
that
fact.
song.
you did not write that song.
So I wrote that song.
I think Big and Rich wrote that song.
Big and Rich? That sounds disgusting.
That song. Who wrote that song?
That is
We'll fix it in 80.
me.
And I think that was another genuine moment from Vic, who clearly doesn't know Bon Jovi songs, which, I mean, why? I only know Bon Jovi songs because I used to teach fitness classes, to be honest.
Disgusting. Whatever
That
that
song.
is.
Who wrote that song?
Look, that's a true look. Okay, so I also actually wouldn't be surprised if that gets folded into future moves of this game as well. If we have more songs, I can imagine there being more guesses.
That is, I believe,
We'll fix it in 80.
Me.
No, I don't think you did.
number 2.
Second fact.
Did Jeremy know who it was?
Comedian and a very funny comedian online.
I've heard you do some front-facing character videos.
I do a lot of front-facing character videos.
Well, we got a couple of those.
No.
Go ahead and see some of your impressions.
Hey, no one
Oh, read me.
get off my lawn. You guys!
I don't get it.
It is so funny if you got it. In La Fuhu. This is so funny.
Okay.
It's funny because it's painful because it's true.
Let's take a look at that.
Country people are always like, where's my goat? But city people is always like, oh, what? I'm biking here. Follow for more.
I can sort of tell by the inflection that there's a joke. I just feel like I don't
And that is how I respond to my own front-facing character videos as well.
your catchphrase here.
You know what time it is. Let's get the boys! Where are my boys out? Comment down below if you're a boy. It always makes
Your catchphrase makes you crack.
say it to death.
You have so many videos.
It's too real. It's so real.
You're looking for love.
In all honesty, I am huge bachelor, sleeping and sucking around,
Right.
fucking and sucking through every town I go through.
For some reason.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So I felt like we were trying to reestablish the narrative, move the narrative on. I don't know if that's maybe not quite enough for a game, but that definitely as like a furthering of the character, making it more and more specific. It's not just flirty now, it's horny, it's outwardly horny. That's going to be fuel for Comedy Fire, right?
If this offends you,
Yeah.
you don't give that vibe.
And
No.
what about me does not give me that?
To me, you sort of look like a divorced magician.
Some people like that.
Maybe that's a thing on La Fufu.
Say what you see.
Maybe I can show you my moves a little bit.
Okay.
So you understand what it is like to be promiscuied by me.
Why don't we put that on ice?
Promiscuied.
Fire questions.
Oh,
Oh, that's interesting. So usually Vic, like I said before, is great at following the fun. They did say put it on ice, so maybe we're going to come back to like the love tutorial. But rapid fire questions. So I have seen some episodes of this before. They have other free episodes. I'll link to this one. I'll link to some others. Short form improv that I described before, where they give you like how to be funny in this scene. If you're going to shoehorn a version of that into this kind of long form format, this is a great way to do it. You've got two established characters, so you have a frame, a lens for the comedy. You have one character that is like anally retentive, standoffish, control freak kind of person. We have another character who's like a horny foreigner weirdo. You have like two or three main characteristics, and then you're going to be asked just a question, a single line of a question, and it's like a setup punchline kind of flow, because as long as you say something that references, that uses one of those strong character traits that you've created, it's almost certainly going to be funny.
What was your favorite subject in school?
ooh, knife fights.
Knife fights was your favorite
Yes,
subject in
it is
school.
such an interesting subject matter.
So that's through the lens of like, I guess, like foreign and weird, because we've set up customs and things. So we're going to say that knife fighting is custom.
You fight the knife. Knife fight, fight the knife.
Oh no, we're fighting the knife.
Knife, fight the knife, fight the knife. The knife is alive and it's...
And there's Vic joining in with following the fun. Vic is great if there's like a dance going on, if there is a song. I don't think that they're much of a singer, but if someone's singing or chanting, whatever, Vic's going to try and join in and find a way through the lens of their character for it to be funny.
Coming for you. The knife is alive and it's coming for you.
Okay, and so this was
wanted.
No, that's not different enough from Dead or Alive.
That was the song. That was the. Oh my god.
Wrote that song.
You know what?
He wrote that song.
Okay.
Okay, what is your least favorite?
Did he say Dead or Alive? To get around the copyright?
Color.
I would say my least favorite color is the color when the sun goes down,
When the sun's gone?
when a flower stops to bloom,
There could be so many different
when
colors.
a child...
Okay, I don't know if Jeremy's got an idea where he's going here, but Vic is doing their thing of adding in details again to try. If there's something to be found there, they'll find it they're just yes-anding. This is like pure yes-anding.
Kisses mother goodbye when a vase falls.
Well, it depends on the color of the vase and I guess the color of the
When
floor that it
the
fell on.
bird hunts the animal. That is my least favorite color.
Blood.
It is the color of pain.
Is it red?
It is red.
All right, what is your worst?
They didn't. I don't know that they found anything there.
Really?
Commitment.
Despite the fact that
But that's
you're
okay.
looking for a spouse.
It's improv.
Why are you making that face?
I'm so scared. Maybe I need someone to hold me.
Well, maybe somebody here is interested in holding you.
I've already slept with everyone here.
Everyone on set?
Everyone here.
Even Devi.
Even Debbie.
He's
The
horny.
hottest person on set.
Easily the hottest person on set.
Every single morning I try and make small talk with Debbie and I'm like, hey, what's going on? How was your weekend?
No, you have to go big talk.
What do you mean?
I cannot explain it. If
This is nice. This is
why I'm
flowing.
so hot, you think I would capture it in
Can
a
I
bottle
ask
and
you,
sell
'cause
it?
I am sort of like when I meet people.
That's really flowing. Okay. So, I mean, that might have been edited to have them more overlapped when they're talking together. But because they've established their characters so strongly, you're not, when you're in that, you get into that flow state, you're not having to think about the next line of dialogue at all. Because we have this decision from up front that I'm horny, and I guess it works for me with my foreign weirdness, and I'm awkward, and that doesn't work for me. So when he starts talking about all this success that he has sleeping around, Vic is able to just launch into, like, from quite an emotionally driven place, a genuine place as the character. Tell me about that. How do I do that? Because I can't. And that is when you get really doesn't even need to be funny because it's immersive. You're just watching two real people communicate.
About, say we're at a coffee shop or something like that. Here's how I sort of approach it.
Okay, now we'll play it out. I'll be
Okay, well,
person
if you
with
don't mind.
coffee.
Okay, me too.
Ooh, a dark latte. I love this.
Oh, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking
Dark latte.
Said it out
It's a
loud.
dark latte because latte has milk in it and it makes the drink lighter.
Yeah, so it does not have milk in it.
So it's just a coffee. Okay, I feel like this role play isn't
You
working.
put
'cause-
me off,
No, I
man.
have no idea.
They abandoned the role play.
At a bar, maybe. That's a place
Okay.
that people go to meet. Okay, I'll stand.
Is that saying?
Fighting
It
weird
went from
here.
midnight to 6.
It went from midnight to 6. Is that a thing that people say? It did go from midnight to 6. Vic, so I've talked about Vic framing things and it causing a bounce from game to game to game to game. Now, this worked for them because at this moment they were doing a scene within a scene. So they were able to abandon that without the whole thing being abandoned. And also it was a funny moment. But be aware as an improviser when you're on stage, if you frame absolutely everything, and because you might be working with a Jeremy Culhane who is gonna say crazy stuff. If you point out every crazy thing, you're not gonna get anywhere, because that scene was supposed to be about what, flirting, dating, love life, I don't know, and it didn't get further than dark latte. So I mean, that's beautifully handled. And again, they have the concept of this show to help them work around it. But keep an eye on that when you're on stage.
Let's just say at a bar, maybe. That's a place
Okay.
that people go to meet. Okay, I'll stand also. I'll take 2 drinks, please. I'll take a Sprite, and I'll take a white wine.
Sprite, no white
I will
wine.
go to war for you.
What?
I would take up arms and fight whatever enemy you set to fight.
What kind of war?
The war of love, the war of people, the war in space,
A space war?
a space war if it happens.
Are you an astronaut?
You can frame it again.
It's a lot of training to become an astronaut.
I would do whatever it takes to make
Good.
it.
Powering past the training to get to the end of a thought.
On Devi.
Hello, Devi.
Don't blame.
What is your problem?
What do you mean, what is my problem?
That worked on Devi.
Always wanted to love you. All I did was out of
Song?
everyone I could have chosen.
It seems like you did choose everyone.
No.
You said you slept with everyone on this set.
It's always the one that gets away.
Okay, listen. I just thought we were gonna have sort of a nice conversation about friendship. We were gonna learn a little bit about your country. And, maybe we're gonna find out about if you had tried a hot dog or something like that. And that was gonna be.
Oh, what is hot dog?
You want some American snacks?
I would love American snacks.
Segment. Okay, cool. Look, we don't have time to get into American snacks today. I think we're going to have to leave that there, but I loved that. I can't wait to see the rest of this episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? Do you think I missed something that you picked up on? Stick it in the comments. Let me know. But also tell me, what would you like to see me react to and break down for you? It could be sketch comedy. It could be improv. What's your favorite stuff on the internet? Tell me. And if you're looking for a coach, you can get in contact. And whoever you are, just keep laughing.